Thank you for joining us today for this Master of Physical Therapy North info session. So today's info session is going to focus on the Northern cohort. If you missed our general info session last Monday, that recording is going to be available on our website on the admissions event page where you probably signed up for this, probably by the end of the day tomorrow. So you can always go back there if you would like more information about the other sites and stuff like that. I'd like to start by acknowledging that I'm talking to you from my home on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. You will be muted during the session, but we'll keep questions towards the end. We'll use Slido, so you can type in your questions and you'll see them appear on the screen. People can upvote questions that they really want an answer for. And yeah, that's how we'll proceed for the questions. I also want to note that we are going to focus on Northern related questions for this cohort specifically. Our faculty presenters today are David Inekwe, he's the academic lead for the MPT-North cohort, and Robin Roos, she's the clinical site lead for the MPT-North cohort. We also have three students today that will share their experiences with you. Ella, Julian, and Justin, sorry, and Juliana. I think I've got that right. And they'll be talking a little bit later on during the presentation. So without further delay, I will hand it over to Robin.
Thank you, Louis. Hello, Hetty. Welcome, everybody. Lovely to have you join us today. So as Louis said, my name's Robin. I'm a physiotherapist and clinical lead for the MPT North. And I'd just like to respectfully acknowledge that I'm joining today from the ancestral, traditional, and unceded territory of the Lheidli T'enneh. And as a settler, I recognize my responsibility to reconciliation, and a part of that is to really also recognize the relationships that the First Peoples have had to the land where we are. And certainly we are very fortunate in the MPTN to have really good relationships with the Lheidli T'enneh, and are grateful for their stewardship of this land, and particularly at this time of the year. For those of you in the north, we're hearing the geese fly south. We have had spectacular harvest moon sightings in the last few evenings, really reminding us of our gratitude to Mother Earth for sustaining us. So thank you. Great. So for many of you, you may already know what physiotherapy is, but for some of you who may be joining us are kind of wondering what all this is about, and whether this might be the profession for you. So if perhaps you've already been to physio and you know what it's all about, or perhaps you've been to physio, but this is kind of also new information. So physical therapy is the evaluation and treatment of injury, illness, and disability, with a real focus on reducing pain and increasing mobility. So it's a hands-on profession that is really working with the body, the mind, the spirit, using clinically scientific and proven techniques to really focus on optimizing movement and improving function. So physical therapists work kind of in such a broad scope of practice, as we call it. So we have skills and knowledge to be able to assess conditions and be able to provide physiotherapy diagnoses, to then manage and treat those diagnoses across a broad range of medical conditions. Everything from kind of ankle sprains, which people know a lot kind of about the reason to go to physio, but also in other areas and conditions in the neurological spectrum, such as strokes or acquired brain injury. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that too. But really the focus of physical therapy is really to, as I said, increase mobility. And that might be increasing strength, improving balance. It might also be addressing the cardiovascular system and the cardiovascular performance of individuals who have had, again, any kind of number of injury, disease, or conditions that might affect that. Pain is often a reason why people will access physio. And so part of the physiotherapist's job is to really accelerate healing and optimizing movement in the long run. So physical therapists work across a variety of different areas of practice, as we call it. So again, that kind of scope of practice. So very commonly, we're known around what we call musculoskeletal injuries or orthopedic injuries, which is related to bones and muscles and joints, but also work in the area of pediatrics. So working with children across the spectrum, cardiorespiratory, again, heart and lungs being important muscles and organs in the body that again contribute to health. Rheumatology, again, around joints. So lots of different areas in which physiotherapists can specialize after graduation and work in those sort of specialized areas, or work in more general practice, like in rural practice, where you might see all of these things within the context of your day-to-day. Physios work sometimes independently in their own practice, kind of, and own individual practices. They might work independently as part of a larger healthcare team, depending on kind of the setting they're in. So, depending on what your interest is when you graduate, and there's lots of jobs out there when you do graduate, you do really get your pick of what you may choose to work in. And a variety of different settings. So you could work in a hospital setting or in a clinic, a standalone clinic or a primary care clinic, again, with other health practitioners. Could work in the community. You could work in schools. You could work in industry. I worked in the Kitimat smelter plant for a period of time. You could work with sports teams. Whole variety of kind of different areas of practice that you can do, both in the publicly funded sector as well as in the privately funded sector. So I think these are, well, I'll continue here for just a little bit longer and then I'll pass it off to David. So to become a physical therapist in BC, it is a graduate degree program, which we're going to talk a little bit more about in today's session. So you need to have graduated from a bachelor's program. And Louis will talk a little bit more about kind of what some of those are, but it could be any undergraduate degree. So we really encourage and accept students from a really broad range of different bachelor degrees. You're going to complete the MPT program, which we're going to give you more information about in today's session. We have a national licensing requirement, which then gives you a provincial license. And once you have that provincial license, then you can practice anywhere in Canada. Think I still have one more. I think this is one more slide and then I'll pass it to David. So the program is 26 months in length. So just beyond 2 years, you end up graduating in the fall of kind of the third year of the program, and includes lots of clinical placement time. So over 1,000 hours of clinical experience across 5 different clinical times when you're in the community. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about that. It's the only physical therapy program in BC, but one of many across the country. Most provinces do have one, and some provinces have more than one. And we are accredited by the Physiotherapy Education of Canada. I think I'll turn it to David.
Yes, so I'm going to take it over from here. So once again, I'm joining you from the traditional unceded territory of the Clay 800 people, just co-located in the same location with Robin. So now we're going to talk about the program overview. So like Robin mentioned, it is a 26 months program. And across these 26 months, you're going to take several courses, both in the academic setting and the clinical setting. And the curriculum areas that you'll be covering ranges from basic sciences to courses that train your skills in clinical decision making. It's also going to cover several domains from musculoskeletal to neurological conditions to cardiovascular and respiratory conditions. And you're also going to encounter contents in other areas such as oncology, metabolic disorders, complex conditions, limb loss, and several other areas. Some of your courses will also hone and tap into exercise sciences and movement sciences. And then you'll have some exposure to basic research in terms of being able to interpret and make evidence-informed clinical decisions using research that is available out there. We also have some exposures for students who are interested in research to take part of the clinical placement, within that domain. And within these 26 months, students are supported by both academic faculty at the university and clinical faculty who are usually clinicians working full-time in across the province, who are also clinical faculty with the university, helping to contribute to students' learning. Next slide. So you're going to have, within these 26 months, you're going to complete 5 clinical placements across 2 years. And there are some certain requirements to this clinical placement, which you get to learn more about when you're in the program. But exposure areas will include acute care hospitals, outpatient clinics, which may be orthopedic or neuromusculoskeletal. We have student-led clinics, we have community health care centers, we have opportunities for clinical placement in indigenous health. And then we also have exposures to primary care and pediatric clinical settings. Next slide. So you would have heard about the Master of Physical Therapy program at UBC being distributed. What does this mean? It means that this program has students located in different geographical sites who are learning concurrently at the same time, being taught by the same instructor, for across all their academic curriculum. So currently, we have 20 students in the north, which is termed the MPTM. But in addition to that, we have about 20 students in Victoria. We'll have 23 students in Fraser, in a Fraser Valley site. And then we have 2 cohorts at UBC. One is a cohort of 60 students that are the Master of Physical Therapy Vancouver. We have another 20 students, making them total in Vancouver, who are part of the Master of Physical Therapy that is, they're physically located at Vancouver, but they're going to complete their clinical placement in the interior, around Kelowna area. So these students going to have the academic program in Vancouver site, but most of their clinical placements will be completed in the interior. So technically, we have 2 cohorts that are located in Vancouver site. Next slide. So what do we, when we talk about academic distribution, we are making reference to curriculum that is being delivered to geographically distinct sites. As you can see in that picture, we have an instructor who is teaching the class from Vancouver, but all the sites I just showed you were connected based on technological platform. You have big screens, we have zoom up cameras that can even show minute joints or hairs on the skin, and the instructor can make delivery regardless of where the students are located. And while the instruction is also going on, we'll have clinicians who refer to as clinical skills assistants who are located at all the geographical sites, who go around to work with the students at that geographical sites to help make sure that what is being delivered, it's being received. So at times we also have local sessions. We'll have breakout the students along with the instructor or with the clinicians at their different sites. And then some of our classes can happen synchronously online, where we'll just have teaching or didactic teaching, or asynchronously where students learn on their own and they connect together with the instructor afterwards. One of the advantages of distribution is that it helps us to tap into expertise from across the province. So depending on the curriculum area, we will have the best expertise, whether it's at Fraser Valley, whether it's at Vancouver or in Victoria or in the north, we can have that expertise contribute to our students' learning regardless of their physical location. And distribution is a robust and proven model of healthcare professions education and has helped improve the distribution of clinicians, physiotherapists too, across different geographical regions. Next slide. So why the MPT-North? So this program was uniquely started because of the fact that there had been and there is still a significant shortage of PTs in northern and rural communities. And one of the goals of training PTs in the north is to help bridge this gap and increase the number of PTs who work and provide service in northern and rural communities. of BC. So the program is a provincially funded initiative, and it was developed in partnership with University of Northern British Columbia. So UBC students who are admitted to the MPT and complete all of the academic program here at University of Northern British Columbia. And like I mentioned, the goal is to increase recruitment and retention of PTs in northern and rural areas. And the students that are admitted to the MPTN will resume in the north here and complete all the academic program here in the north at UMBC. So who are the students we are looking for in the MPTN? Those who want to develop close ties with northern and rural communities, who want varied experience with their clinical placements, because unlike when you go to big cities, you go to most clinics that are specialized clinics. They could just be focusing on the foot or focusing on one area. Often in the north and in rural communities, you're going to see generalists. In other words, you're going to see patients coming from all spheres of life, whether it's head trauma or whether it's ankle injury or it's breathing problems. So there is a variety of experience that allows our clinicians who work in the north to use all of the clinical skill set that they've learned across all domains to provide service to patients. And students who want exposure to such experience are people we are looking forward to admitting in the north. And those are those who would like to use their full scope of knowledge, experience, and training. And also the north, it's a place where those who have an adventurous spirit, thrive, have a lot of outdoor physical activities, things you can do, and some of our students will get to tell you more about that when they talk about the experience. Next slide. I think here I will hand it over to one of the students.
I can have a go at it first. Hi, everybody. My name's Justin. I'm a second year physical therapy student up here in the north. My pronouns are he, him. It's good to see everybody. I guess I'll go through a little bit of how I got to the physio program, how I learned about it, and what got me inspired to coming in here. Starting out, I've grown up in Prince George most of my life. So I've attended high school here at Dutchess Park Secondary School. And I played lots of sports throughout my years there. And I think that's kind of where I started to see that I wanted to join physio is you see lots of injuries. It always is going to happen. And when you're attending the physio to rehab some of your injuries, you get an idea of what the lifestyle's like and what that does for you. Like when I've injured my ankle when I was playing lots of volleyball. I felt so much relief. I was really stressed about it. I wanted to keep playing volleyball. And the professionalism that I experienced at my time at the physio clinics really inspired me. And I wanted to impart that feeling into other people, essentially. I attended UNBC as well. I did a community and population health, so I didn't go the traditional route. A lot of people will go through kinesiology background, but I decided to do something kind of a little bit more generalized, as I wasn't entirely sure if I wanted to do physio right off the bat. I wanted to keep my options open. And I found that that program specifically was really good for communication and really good for just a broad sense of the healthcare system. And that kind of educated me on that side of things. So, yeah, as I moved through my undergrad, I was more and more convinced that I wanted to get into physiotherapy as I had some friends who were also in the program above me. And yeah, the experience has been amazing so far. I hope to dive a little bit more into it with the questions at the end, but yeah, that's a little bit about me.
I guess I can go next. I'm Ella. I go by she, her pronouns. I didn't always know I wanted to do physio. I grew up in Prince George and I went to high school here. I did my undergrad here in like at UMBC in biomed. So not the traditional kinesiology route, which I think probably like 75% of my cohort has a degree in. So it's definitely there, you really play on each other's strengths. And that really brings you closer together because I learned a lot of the healthcare side of things in my undergrad and a lot about like the research and all of that kind of stuff. So it gives me a different perspective on everything, especially like with my experiences and like what I chose to do for work and everything. So, um, yeah, just the opportunities of being able to apply and understand and learn about the program at like the tabling events during like our club days and everything. Like that's really what drew me in. In the last year, I got a concussion and I went to physio for it, and it really made me see that this is something that I would love to do, that I really want to help people the way that I was able to be rehabbed back to my normal living situation and then beyond that. So it's really an amazing career. Everyone is like so close knit. We already have so many inside jokes and we're loving it. So
I, I can jump in next if you'd like. I'm Juliana. I'm also in the same cohort here in UNBC's campus here. So I'm a first year student, and like Ella, I didn't always know I wanted to be a physio. I actually am coming back for my second career, so I'm a mature student coming back after working for a number of years out in the real world. So I attended UNBC as an undergrad, really enjoyed my experience there, and then went out and worked, had a first career in museums. And then I was kind of looking for a change. I was very interested in working in healthcare. And I, again, knew a lot of people around me who were getting injuries and different kinds of conditions where they had reduced mobility. And I was really seeing how it had such a huge impact on their lives. And I was kind of wishing that I could make a difference in that area and that I could help, people like the people that I knew who were struggling with that. I'd also had a really good experience myself in physio in my late teens, early 20s with a shoulder injury. And so, again, I was just so impressed with kind of the power of the profession to really help people and get them back on their feet and improve their quality of life. So that's what kind of focused me in on physiotherapy. So it was a long process doing the prerequisites. I was working full time. I was taking one course at a time online. And so that took me a while, but I was really thrilled when I got into the program, and I've learned so much already in just over a month. It's been quite amazing. So yeah, it's been a really good experience so far.
Thank you very much, students. So, as you can see in this photo, and you hear from the voices of our students, they're a very close and knit group. They're close to each other. They support each other. Work as a community, student, staff, supporting each other. You can see them there. Their classmates become their lifelong friends, their teammates, their close friends. They socialize together. They have groups to organize trips and lots of fun things they do together as students. So, and you get to ask more questions about those. I'll hand it back over to Louis.
Thanks, David. And thank you to all our students and Robin. Please, for the participants, keep your questions towards the end. I'm sure we'll have lots of questions for our students and faculty. So for now, we'll move on to the admissions portion of the presentation. In terms of minimum admissions requirement for the program, you'll need a 4-year bachelor's degree in any field. If you completed your degree outside of Canada in an institution where the language was any language other than English, then you would need to provide, some kind of competency test like TOEFL or IELTS along with your application. The minimum overall average is 76% in all your senior level courses. So that's 300 level or above. And you'll need 72% in all your prerequisite courses. So those courses are physics, English, anatomy, human physiology, statistics, and psychology. Also remember that you need 2 courses of human physiology, one basic and one advanced. A very common question about prerequisites is, what happens if you cannot find your prerequisite on our list of pre-approved courses on our website? So for those of you who don't know, we have a huge list of pre-approved prerequisite courses on our website to make things easier for you to apply. If you don't see your courses there, you can always check the BC Transfer Guide, and if the courses that you want to use are equivalent to any of our pre-approved courses, then you're good to go. But if you don't see your course on our website or the BC Transfer Guide, then that means you'll need to submit a course review request. And basically, you'll have to submit that along with your syllabus for the course, and it'll get reviewed by one of our faculty members, and we'll be able to let you know if you can use it for your prerequisites or not. Um, so in terms of residency, we do prioritize BC residents as well as the residents from the territories. When we say BC residents, that also includes people that have graduated from a university in BC in the last 5 years. So even though you may be coming from a different province, if you graduated from a program in the last 5 years in BC, you'll be considered on the same level as BC residents. You'll also need 70 hours of volunteer experience over 2 facilities, and those experiences need to involve direct interaction with people that have cognitive, emotional, or physical disabilities. And you'll also need to complete the Casper test. The Casper test, for those who don't know, is a situational judgment test. So it's meant to sort of evaluate, your character traits and values and things like that, communication. And it's done online through written responses as well as video responses. Casper does a really good job of providing training materials and a lot of information about their tests. So if you have questions about that, I highly, highly recommend that you check out their website to learn more about it. So now I'll hand it over to Gary, who'll go over references in the supplemental application form.
Hi, thanks so much. So this year we actually updated the number of references required for each applicant. Historically, it used to be 2 academic and 1 practical. This year, it is as of this year, it's only 1 academic and 1 practical. I just wanted to make a few suggestions with this requirement. So generally speaking, when you are applying, it's always best to submit your application earlier rather than later because your references will not be alerted to submit any of their materials electronically until you've actually submitted your application. Um, One thing to also mention as well, when inputting the reference information, you want to make sure that whenever possible to use an institutional email address, because something like a generic or free web-based email like Gmail or something like that would not be functional with the online application portal. If they only have an email address like Gmail, that's fine. Unfortunately, they would be limited to sending in their materials via standard mail. We are aware there's a Canada Post strike currently going on, but it would be fine to have them use an alternate courier service as well, so long as they have it sent to us directly. Um, the other thing to mention too, when suggesting to submit your online application earlier, is because oftentimes references do potentially run into technical issues. They are usually quick fixes, but if you wait until the deadline of January 5th, you would ultimately be, restricting their submission time frame to about 10 days. So we do recommend submitting your application earlier. Below that is the supplemental application form that's mentioned. It has 3 different components: the prerequisite info, your paid work or slash volunteer experience information, and your written response. Documents like this and your transcripts are able to be added to an already submitted application, so do not feel like you have to have everything attached in order to submit it. The application portal is fully, gives you the opportunity to add all that stuff later on. The one thing you want to be mindful of when you're submitting your online application is to ensure that your responses are to your liking within the required fields themselves, because that would become essentially read-only after the application is submitted. So again, get it done early if possible. And then, yeah, you still have an additional 10 days after the deadline in order to submit all the rest of your documents. And I think
Great.
I'm done rambling.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks.
Great. So site preferences, as David mentioned earlier, we have a lot of new sites over the last few years. We've expanded quite a bit. So We have five different cohorts now to choose from. So it's important when you're submitting that online application that you submit your site preference, and that will allow us to, if you're, admitted into the program, it'll allow us to make sure that you're assigned to your preferred site where you'd like to study. If ever there's a site where you can't make it work in terms of commute or just location in general or something else, you can always mark it as no interest, and we'll simply not consider you for that site. Um, and yeah, overall your ranking doesn't affect your application. You're admitted to the MPT program first, and then we try to assign you to your preferred site as much as possible. In the last few years, we've been, I think, around 85% of our students have been assigned to their number one site. So most of our students get their top choice if they're admitted. Um, yeah, this is a little bit more about site preference. If you do apply for the North and you want to be located in that cohort, you will have to submit an additional application form that is on our website. So that's good to remember that and make sure that you submit that along with your application. Otherwise, you won't be considered for the UNBC cohort. Important dates. So October 1st, applications are already open. You'll have until January 5th to submit your online application, and then January 15th for all your documentation. We do know when the MMI will be this year, so it is on March 6th, Friday, March 6th, 2026. So if you're intending to apply this year, put that on your calendar. Um, yeah, just to make sure that you don't forget. And just, Gary mentioned this already, but just, reiterating what he said, the what's due on January 5th is really just your online application. So, like Gary said, don't stress about all the other supplemental stuff. That's really what you need to focus on. And submitting your online application is what will trigger your references to, receive that email request to submit their references. So it's important to think about doing that earlier than later because references can get quite busy, especially coming back from the winter break and all that. And then after that, on January 15th, that's when all of your documents are required. So your supplemental application, your MPTN application for this cohort, your references, transcripts, all of that is what you need to submit on January 15th, your Casper scores as well. But if you take any of the Casper dates that are assigned to UBC Master of Physical Therapy, we've already pre-approved them with Casper, so there's no issue there. We'll get your scores on time. We also have an Indigenous pathway, so we have 8 reserved seats for Indigenous students. Um, to be eligible for these seats, you need to self-identify as Indigenous, and you also need to meet all the minimum requirements. You need to be a Canadian citizen, and you need to provide proof of ancestry. On our website, there's a list of the different types of proofs of ancestry that we accept. Now, there are many, many different types of documents for that. So if ever you have any questions, you can email mpt.admissions@ubc.ca, which is there. But on our website, we also have the email contact for our Indigenous Initiatives Manager, Shannon Field. And you're welcome to email her directly if you have any questions about those documents. So for those who don't know, we use the MMI multiple mini interviews for our interview format. So it's meant to assess your communication skills and your overall critical thinking skills, your values and character traits. And what it is essentially it's an online interview of consecutive interviews. So we have 10 stations. One of them is a break station. You enter each station, read a scenario for 2 minutes, and then you have 6 minutes to answer that question or scenario with a live interviewer in that station. And you do that 9 times plus one break station until you're done with the MMI. A lot of applicants ask us how they can prepare for the interviews. And what successful applicants have told us over the years that has helped them quite a bit is to practice the actual format of the interview. So practicing with friends and family to answer questions within that 6 minute time frame. If you haven't experienced that before, it can be quite stressful and it's not your typical way of sort of doing interviews, I would say. So just being familiar with the format can really decrease your stress level during the MMI. So that's it for today. Just a few reminders before we go. Make sure you meet all the minimum requirements, of course. Start your application early. Like Gary and I said, especially for references, it will really help you. Check the website regularly if any changes are made or if we've left any notes or anything like that. And you are also very welcome to ask questions at the MPT dot admissions at ubc.ca. We also have some office hours on Tuesdays and Thursday that is available on our website as well. So you can sign up for that if you'd like to speak one-on-one with somebody, if you have questions that aren't answered by the website. And of course, we have recordings for these info sessions. So if you have any questions and you'd like to come back to these recordings, they'll be available on our website too. So now I will hand it over to Gary, who will, I think,
Yeah,
share through.
I got the
Okay,
slide all ready to go.
just go ahead.
And then one thing to mention while the questions pop in is to also just say the virtual office hours, yeah, they are available. They will be halted from December until mid to late spring. So if during that time you have any questions, email is always the best. We do try to get back to people in a pretty rapid time frame.
And I'm sure questions are coming in, but to kick things off, I actually had a question for one of our students, Juliana, if you don't mind, and also the other students as well. Feel free to chime in. But I was wondering about how you kind of touched on it, but I was wondering about your prerequisites and your experience with that because I think you're coming from a non-science degree and that can be quite challenging for people that don't have those anatomy and physiology courses as part of their degree. So I was wondering how you navigated that.
Yes. So yes, my background is actually in anthropology. So that's what my undergrad degree was in. So I'm one of the few who come from social sciences instead of hard sciences. So yeah, for me, I started pretty early, about 4 or 5 years before my application, basically. And because I was taking one course at a time while working full time, and I was kind of looking online for any kind of online courses that fit UBC's requirements. I was going through the approved course lists all the time, making sure that I was on those lists with my courses. And yeah, just going through it really, slowly but surely. It took a lot of patience, but eventually I got through. I was also able to take a short leave from work in my last year before applying. So I was able to take 2 courses at that time. So getting things done a little bit faster toward the end, which is really nice.
Awesome, thanks.
I can even add on to that a little. Most of the requirements I got from my health science degree did go through, but there were still a few. Like I didn't do my physics 12, for example, through high school. So that was something that I had to upgrade. And there's a ton of different ways that you can do that. You can do that through the college up here. I also found if you want to be like super efficient, you can go through TRU or another school online to finish some of your upgrades, and that can be something that is just a little bit more time efficient if that's something that you're worried about. And you can, you can do that alongside your other studies.
Yeah, and I think like if you're like just getting into university or you're thinking about switching your undergrad, like there's more than one way to get those prerequisites into your schedule. Like talk to your academic advisors and they can sneak you into other programs like specific course loads. Like say you're like for example, Juliana's was in anthropology. So you can talk to the academic advisor to get you into physiology and anatomy, which is part of the health sciences department at UNBC. So it's not like an end all be all if you're stuck in a social science degree. Or part of a social science degree, you can find ways around it, and your academic advisors are really key in that position too.
Thank you.
I did highlight this question because I thought it would be a nice one for Robin. If
Thanks, Gary.
yeah.
I love to talk about ClinEd. So yes, across the program, you will complete clinical placements in a variety of different kind of areas of practice. And for the MPTN, we have a requirement that you do the majority of your clinical placements in northern and rural communities. And so you can do placements and outside of Prince George if you wish to, or you can see if you can meet all of your requirements based on kind of what's offered within Prince George. So some students have been able to kind of meet that requirement to do all of their placements here, but you can absolutely also do them outside of Prince George in the north and in the rest of the province. We are a provincial program in that way, and that we do offer students are able to kind of accept offers and placements in other regions across the province, but you just need to meet your requirements for that. Hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much. The one below it as well might be a good one for the current students to
Yeah.
maybe address if that's okay with you
For
guys.
sure. Yeah, I can talk about that one. I want to start by saying that you absolutely can work when you go through school, this school specifically. I know a few people that are in our cohort that are doing a few hours a week type thing. Um, Overall, this is definitely something that most of us don't do, however, because it is a pretty heavy course at the start, especially in our first block. It's very full time, and it's definitely something that you want to focus most of your energy towards. That being said, if that's something that you do have to do, it is very possible. I know a few of my group. One of my group is a nurse actually, and so they pick up a few shifts when they're able to, just on off times, sometimes on the weekends. Another one is I think a ski instructor or a yeah, a figure skating instructor. There we go. And so they do a few hours after school sometimes. So it's preferably you would want to only work very minimally if you are able to. Um, but yeah, most of us are not working.
Thanks, Justin. And just a reminder, kind of to add that because this program is actually 26 months straight, it's not typical in that you get sort of the summers off to work. So do not count on that time. You do get a few weeks in the summer in which you could pick up, but you need to ensure that it is a job which you have a lot of flexibility around that because you will not have summers off as is typical in school programs.
Yeah, this highlighted question, how does the education differ in this cohort from the others? It was kind of addressed during the presentation, but I don't know if David or Robin want to elaborate a little bit further.
Yeah, I'm happy to take a first stab at that. I'm not really sure when you talk of education. So if you're talking of our academic curriculum, it is essentially the same across the cohort. In fact, not just being the same, you have the same course coordinator, you have the same class instructor, and the curriculum is essentially the same. It is just, we're just using a technological platform to deliver them to different geographical locations. The clinical placement model is also similar, but depending on where your clinical placement is, you have different exposures because that varies across the province. In addition to our core curriculum, which you require to get your license, we at times have extracurricular learning opportunities that may vary by different sites, maybe unique to the North because of our, community involvement, indigenous, but those are, extra opportunities that at times we may have opportunities where nursing and PT students in the North are learning something together that is outside the core curriculum. But the curriculum for the MPT program is the same and is being delivered equally across different geographical sites. I don't know if Robin has anything to add.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to highlight this next one below it. What is it like studying in Prince George? So like I'm assuming the students would want to address that one.
I can give it a shot first. Um, I'm from Prince George, so it's kind of not super new to me, but I honestly love it. Like, there's always something outdoorsy and active to do here. It's never like a dull moment. And I know the weather keeps us on our toes up here, so that's always a bonus. But honestly, the studying, like we have a lot of really nice facilities here and lots of cute cafes if you're a public studier or if you need to like lock in individually, there's lots of different places around the campus. And I'm in a breakout room right now, which is a specific kind of study room for the OT and PTs here. And they're wonderful. There's plinths in every room and whiteboards, and they're all stocked with whiteboard markers. So it's definitely well supported, and the faculty here are incredible and so supportive, and they treat you like family. So I say if you're on the fence about it, take the jump, take the leap, come to Prince George. It's great.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This one is also for the students. What is it like? Is it possible to be a student athlete in physio? Or maybe the faculty could address this too. I'm not sure. I'm not an athlete, so I wouldn't know, but
Thanks, Gary. I can give, we absolutely have some students in the program who are very high performance athletes at the same time as going through the program. And I think they would often consider it a job in the same way that Justin talked about kind of having commitments outside of the classroom. Yeah, it's possible. We have had varsity athletes who have been part of the MPTN. It's challenging in that same thing as Justin talked about. It's a heavy course load and it's difficult to miss classes because if you miss a class, we don't repeat them again, and you've got to make up for that time that you miss. So it's challenging, but it's absolutely possible.
And I could even add that, like, aside from the student athlete side, we do have a lot of intramurals that we do. So, like, you get assigned as a student, there will be some reps that you get if you get into the program. And so, they'll set up a bunch of different teams for our physio group. Right now, I'm in volleyball, basketball, soccer, and we even have a dodgeball team this year. So, there's lots of time to be active and, participate in some team sports with the group. It's really fun.
while I have the students on here too, there's another question here about is it useful to have a vehicle while in the north?
Sure, I can talk about that.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. You should. I mean, you can get around technically with transit, with buses, but it is really helpful to have a vehicle if you can arrange that. And definitely in the winter, most people, if they can get one, they probably would want a vehicle with winter tires.
Okay. There's a few admission specific questions I'll tackle real quick. First one here, if I took Physics 12 in high school and got an 80, does that count? 100%. BC Physics 12 or the out of province equivalent are perfectly fine. You do want to make sure that when you apply, you note that course in your supplemental application form and also provide an official transcript from the BC Ministry of Education. Um, can you go over the sub GPA calculation? Yeah, so that basically, it's noted on the interview and program entry section of our website, but that specifically would be where all your transcripts are reviewed, and then we would start with the most recent term, working backwards, noting all applicable upper level courses until we reach a maximum 30 credits. Um, there are some types of courses that are not included, and then we explicitly note others that are. So do be sure to go over the details of that, but pretty much that's about it. Um, I saw another answered that. Ah, here's a good question for some of the students, I would say. How do you afford working? How do you afford taking off 2 years of work? Are there grants that a person could access? I can address a bit of this because we do have some awards that are available annually to current MPT students that are eligible for applying after their first year. But generally speaking, I can let the students kind of discuss this a little bit more from their perspective.
Do you want me to start? I can definitely get going there. So for me, I was saving for a number of years as I was taking prerequisite courses for going back to school. So I have a lot of savings that I've built up, and I also got a government student loan. So I've been applying for bursaries and things as well. So those are definitely an option. But yeah, definitely savings and a student loan.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar to Juliana as well. The student loan is definitely a necessity. It's just a great way to get some tax-free money. And also saving is obviously really helpful. I found, for me personally, I live in Prince George, so it's a little bit easier for me, especially if you have some parents that you can live off of. But there's also a few pl ways that you can make the rent cheaper if you're moving in from a different place. I know that we have like the MPT house, so there's a lot of people who are collaborating with each other and living together to reduce that rental cost. And that's also a way that you can make things a little bit easier out here.
Awesome. Thank you. Um, Is there a preference given to someone who has a higher GPA but not as much practical experience versus someone who has a lower GPA but a bunch of practical? The hypothetical questions are always a little bit challenging to respond to because ultimately it generally just depends on the applicant pool of a given cycle, and it's at the discretion of the admissions committee. So, not really sure how to answer that question, if I'm being honest. Yeah, sorry. I do see two similar questions below that about prerequisite courses specifically. If you have all of them are completed except for one is below the minimum. Similarly, the next question below that achieve 71 instead of 72. So unfortunately, the minimum for every single prerequisite course is a 72 or higher. Um, if an applicant were to apply and they listed a course on the supplemental application form where the grade was a bit too low, we would look for alternative courses that maybe had a higher grade. But if we couldn't find any, then unfortunately they wouldn't be considered for an interview because they wouldn't have fulfilled the minimum admission requirements. Um, and actually, that seems to be it for the questions that we have currently in this slide. I'm not sure if there's any others that are coming our way, but I will clear these out and give people a few more minutes since we have five minutes remaining. Also, if anyone has any thoughts or comments about just generally, they're welcome to chime in if we're waiting for any additional last minute questions before this session ends. So.
Yeah, we can wait a minute or so, see if another question comes in. But if not, I wanted to thank all our presenters today, especially our student presenters. It's really good to have your perspective on everything. And thank you for the participants who asked actually a lot of questions to our students and our faculty. So that's great. Look, there's some more questions. What is the cost of living in Prince George? Another question for our students.
I can do this one. It's a lot cheaper. I pay about I have two roommates and we live in a three-bedroom place and I pay about 733 a month and that's everything included. I know my sister who lives in Vancouver, she pays for a two-bedroom place and her half is about 1800. So it's significantly cheaper to live here. You do have some extra costs like a vehicle here, which I would highly recommend just to get around. Like transit is usable, like Juliana said, but it only comes about half an hour every half hour. So not always the most reliable, and you really have to plan ahead. But groceries are fairly cheap. Sometimes our produce is not that great because it has to come up from the Fraser Valley and Okanagan, but I like significantly cheaper in my opinion.
Awesome. Thank you.
Just to add
Oh,
to sorry, the comment from Ella, some of our students who are living in the physio house also carpool, amongst each other, and that helps to support them and still lower their costs significantly.
The other thing
Nice.
that we've talked about in my cohort, especially, is the cost of parking at UNBC compared to other university campuses and gym memberships as well. So our gym membership is included in our tuition here. And I know at UBCO you have to pay out of pocket per semester a quite significant amount. Same thing with parking. It's pretty significant in other universities around BC, whereas PG is not. It's not too bad. I think it's around $50 a month.
Nice. Thank you. There's another one. But this one here real quick, I'll touch on this real fast. This is basically asking about having your transcript with a WES. So generally speaking, for our prerequisites, we wouldn't just automatically accept a course just because it's evaluated by WES. What you would want to do is submit them for review so we can ensure the content covered is sufficient to fulfill that given prerequisite course. Additionally, I'll answer this last question as well real quick. Do courses expire? That's actually on our FAQ page. No, courses do not expire. While they do not expire on our end, we do encourage applicants to have completed a little bit more recently, only so that they're fresh in your mind because the content covered in prerequisites would be directly carried over within the MPT program curriculum. And I will hand it back over to Louis because I think that the time is pretty much up.
Yeah, that's it for today, but lots and lots of really good questions. Thanks, everyone. We will have another Q&A that will just be for admissions related questions. So that's going to be in November, and we'll post that on the website as well. You can ask as many admissions related questions as you want during that session. Usually we answer like almost 100 or something like that. So yeah, thanks very much for joining us, and take care. Bye.